One introduction. Rosep view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosep view. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or ROSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this ROSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, residents against wood smoke emission particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025, and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives, and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Episode 57 DHHR September 23, 2025 Wildfire Smoke Kills 41,000 people in the U.S. per year. In Episode 57 DHHR 1 Wildfire Smoke Kills 41,000 people in the U.S. per year. 2 Rhode Island The Block Island Wind Farm had unexpected benefits. 3 Clean energy global investment in renewable energy up 10% from 2024 despite Trump rollback. Main content. Google alerts September 23, 2025 1 United States wood burning and wood smoke study wildfire smoke kills 41K people in U.S. per year. UPI.com every summer hazy skies and the smell of burning would remind Americans that wildfires affect far more than just the communities where they ignite. United States wood burning and wood smoke wildfire smoke now kills 41,000 Americans. A year study finds U.S. News and World Report burning would remind Americans that wildfires affect far more than just the communities where they ignite. Their smoke drifts for hundreds, even United States. PM 2.5 wildfire smoke will likely kill thousands more Americans each year. Smithsonian magazine scientists usually focus on PM 2.5 particulate matter that measures 2.5 microns across and can penetrate the lungs and bloodstream to track air. United States PM 2.5 U.S. faces rising death toll from wildfire smoke study finds Phys.org. Within wildfire smoke pollution, researchers often focus on fine particulate matter known as PM 2.5, which penetrates the lungs and enters the United States. Wood smoke experts issue warning over shocking health hazards caused by fireplaces. Yahoo wood smoke evidence shows that wood burning heaters contribute to pollution and exacerbate health problems, but many people are unaware of the dangers. United States wood smoke scientists predict wildfire smoke will be the costliest climate-related health hazard. NBC News smoke is at least as harmful as other forms of air pollution. There was the assumption burning of wood was less toxic. Kaufman said these United States wood smoke controls could be expanded to reduce harm. AOL.com wood burning solid fuels releases harmful particles into the environment. Proposals to expand smoke control areas SCAs are being. United States heat pump rebate. Did you dawdle on that new heat pump or EV? Better move fast to get those tax credits. usnews.com the clean vehicle tax credit worth $7,500 for new EVs and up to $4,000 for used ones expires September 30th. Pierce said with a deadline that tight people. The credits had 2 main goals: to help people afford cleaner alternatives like heat pumps and electric vehicles that can save them money, and to United States heat pump rebate. Frugal homeowner receives helpful advice after searching for cheapest way to upgrade the cool down tax credit. Now with this tax credit coming to an end this year, I am wondering if I should DIY installing a heat pump water heater. The United States heat pump rebate new government program offers major HVAC incentives to mobile home owners to cool down, while the heat pump rebate program remains intact through 2031 or until funding is exhausted. Federal tax credits for heat pumps and many other United States heat pump rebate. State governments are still giving homeowners up to $8,000 to snag brand new household to cool down. A dozen states have launched rebate programs with funds. Originally, the Advanced Water Heating Initiative went so far as to call heat pump. United States heat pump rebate time is running out to get these tax breaks for home improvements. Vila homeowners and renters can get a rebate of up to $8,000 to install an electric or natural gas heat pump tax credit of up to $2,000 for heat pump. United States heat pumps gain ground in multifamily housing market. ACHR news as environmental and decarbonization goals, financial incentives, and improved technology make heat pumps more attractive for home heating. In United States PM 2.5 size distribution measurement of insoluble particles in PM 2.5 dispersed in cell culture. ACS publications American Chemical Society the toxicity of PM 2.5 has attracted interest and has been widely studied because of its adverse health effects. In vitro assay exposing Alabama Birmingham heat pump. Did you dawdle on that new heat pump or EV? Better move fast to get those tax credits. CBS 42. In addition to EVs, home upgrades that qualify include home energy audits, heat pumps, solar panels, water heaters, appliances, battery storage, car. Arkansas Hot Springs heat pump rebate. Better move fast to get those green energy tax credits. Hot Springs Sentinel record, for example, if you buy a heat pump and qualify for a $2,000 tax credit, so it operates like a point of sale rebate, she said. California San Francisco ordinance and wood burning. California wants to ban most plants within 5 feet of fire-prone homes. The pushback is underway. San Francisco Chronicle wood fencing within the first 5 feet of a house. Some mature trees would be exempt, though the regulations limit branches near roofs. The concept. California San Francisco wood burning neighbors say this hit SF restaurant is causing excessive smoke. San Francisco Chronicle wood burning grill. Bronte Whitpin. The Chronicle in January 2024, just before Elena Mexican restaurant opened to crowds of customers in San Francisco, Florida. Niceville ordinance and wood burning inside the push to change the 38 county beach rules. Mid-Bay news regarding fire and fireworks. The ordinance. One interesting change recommended for the remediation of debris caused by wood burning is the move from Georgia Americus wood burning heavy smoke from wood chip fire prompts caution on Highway 19 near Americus WLB. The situation will be monitored until the fire burns itself out. Michigan Iron River heat pump upgrade your home this fall. Why now is the time to replace an aging HVAC system. Iron County reporter. Heat pump further lowering the net cost. These IRA incentives are set. Modern HVAC systems do more than heat and cool. They can help. Michigan River Rouge Zug Island PM 2.5 Zug Island pollution causes premature deaths. Harvard epidemiologist says planet Detroit PM 2.5 particulate matter pollution from EES coke battery. He said the social cost of sulfur dioxide and particulate matter pollution from Montana wood burning. Montana Firewood Company loses more than half its inventory in fire. YouTube. A lightning sparked fire destroyed over half of the S&D firewood inventory, but the longtime Manhattan business is rebuilding with community. New Hampshire Peterborough heat pump rebate. Heat Smart Plus rebate program expands in Peterborough and Harrisville. Monadnock ledger transcript. Heat pump air source AC and heating. Heat pump water heaters and heat pump clothes dryers. Most read. New York Albany heat pump rebate. Did you dawdle on that new heat pump or EV? Better move fast to get those tax credits. News 10 ABC payback comes at tax filing time. For example, if you buy a heat pump and qualify for a $2,000 tax credit, you document that expense on your tax. New York Buffalo wood burning. Get to know the New York 50-mile firewood law. WRK. If you plan to burn firewood in New York State, there are some laws that you should know. While New York State has not fully outlawed burning firewood, Oregon heat pump homeowner shares how he upgraded his 130-year-old house and saved $1,700 on electricity. The cool down homeowner is singing the praises of their new heat pump after saving $1,700 in energy costs in just a few months. Pennsylvania Pottsville heat pump. Did you dawdle on that new heat pump or EV? Better move fast to get those tax credits. Pottsville Republican herald the big expenses, including geothermal heat pumps, rooftop solar, and battery storage, are not capped. Those tax credits are 30% of the purchase price. Vermont wood smoke air pollution and how to protect yourself. The Vermont Journal and the Shopper. Vermont Journal. Wood or coal smoke, industrial or chemical pollution, volcanic ash, or other sources have led to regulations trying to control it. For the last, Vermont heat pump homeowner hunts for real-world reviews after questioning the hype around next-gen heat pumps. The cool down. One Redditor shared how high heat pump costs were in their old home, but another Vermonter showed how cheap it could be. Washington Seattle heat pump rebate. Why now is the smartest time to upgrade your heating and cooling system? MyNorthwest.com. Thanks to generous federal tax credit, state rebates, and utility incentives, homeowners can save on energy-efficient upgrades. But these savings. One Washington Vancouver heat pump rebate. Did you dawdle on that new heat pump or EV? Better move fast to get those tax credits. The Columbian. When are they expiring? Most of them expire at the end of this year, but there are some exceptions. The clean vehicle tax credit worth $7,500 for new Canada heat pump. Winter-proof your home with a heat pump that even works at -30°C. Yahoo News Canada. That is because heat pumps do not just survive the cold, they thrive in it. Mover heat pump Canada. British Columbia heat pump. Thrilled homeowner shares personal data showing just how much a new HVAC can / utility bills. The cool down is proof of the cost savings. The OP shared a graph detailing expenditures before and after installing a heat pump. The graph illustrates how heating Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver wood burning last day to register wood burning fireplaces. City News. Vancouver. Monday is the last day to register a wood burning fireplace or stove with Metro Vancouver. Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver wood burning Monday Sept 15th is deadline day. Metro Vancouverites to register their wood burning fireplace. Global news. You might not know it, but Monday September 15th is the deadline for registering your wood burning fireplace or other wood burning devices with Metro. Australia wood smoke. US faces rising death toll from wildfire smoke. Study finds air quality. News outrage in Canberra as ACT government backtracks on wood heater phase out. The team from Stanford University combines statistical and machine. United Kingdom wood smoke. Brighton and Hove smoke controls could be expanded to reduce harm. BBC News. A big contributor both indoors and outdoors is the burning of wood and coal in open fires and log burners. The air quality sensor network was United Kingdom. England wood burning calls to ban wood burning stoves based on false claims. MSN. Most major cities in England fall under a DEFRA smoke control area in which some wood burners are permitted. Latvia wood burning. Wood burning stove is not waste bin. Experts remind public. Reliable news from Latvia. Reliable news from Latvia. LSM. Wood burning stove is not waste bin. Experts remind public to ensure that the way we heat our homes this autumn and the winter that follows has less. France. RAN. PM 2.5. PM 2.5 exposure tied to risk for autoimmune rheumatic disease. Medscape. Long-term exposure defined. Particulate matter. PM 2.5 and its components was associated with a risk of developing systemic autoimmune rheumatic. China. PM 2.5. PM 2.5 pollution linked to lung cancer shows sharp declines in the US, but not in China. News Medical Net. PM 2.5 includes ambient particulate matter pollution. APM from vehicle, a decreasing trend in the mortality burden of TBL cancer attributable to PM. China. PM 2.5. PM 2.5 induce endothelial mesenchymal transition and cardiac fibrosis via the NCOA for PubMed. Epidemiological evidence has indicated a strong association between fine particulate matter PM 2.5 exposure and adverse cardiac outcomes. The advanced portfolio. Wiley epidemiological evidence has indicated a strong association between fine particulate matter PM 2.5 exposure and adverse cardiac outcomes. China. PM 2.5 annual deaths from wildfire smoke projected to increase. Asia Research News. Particulate matter with a diameter of 2.5 micrometer or less. PM 2.5 Mingho Chiu Marshallberg and colleagues developed an ensemble of statistical and world. PM 2.5 the critical role of chemical and biological compositions and sources in PM 2.5 induced. ScienceDirect.com. Air pollution is the second leading global risk for mortality. Health Effects Institute 2024. Fine particulate matter PM 2.5 is a key contributor. World would smoke if the planet continues to warm at its current rate. Exposure to wildfire smoke will kill. Facebook. Heidi Randall. It is true that the resilience of people to environmental exposures, such as wood smoke and wildfire smoke, can vary significantly. Headlines. The New York Times. September 23, 2025. United Kingdom automobiles. Cyber attacks. Jaguar faces prolonged shutdown after a cyber attack. The New York Times. Jaguar faces prolonged shutdown after a cyber attack. The luxury car maker shut down production in early September. To contain the breach, it announced on Tuesday that it would take more time to resume operations. Jaguar Land Rover said production would remain shut at its factories through at least October 1, 2025, because of a cyber attack. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times. September 23, 2025. Jaguar Land Rover, the largest car maker in Britain, said Its production would remain halted until at least October 1st because of a cyber attack that has disabled many of its systems for weeks. The attack, which targeted the retail and production operations, was one of several cyber and ransomware attacks that have caused disruption to an array of European businesses, including hospitals, charities, and most recently airports in Brussels, Berlin, Dublin, and London. The attacks have been costly, with organizations sometimes needing months to bring their processes back online. Marks and Spencer, one of the largest retailers in Britain, was hit in April by a highly sophisticated cyber attack that the company said would cost it about £300 million, $405 million in lost profits this year. Jaguar Land Rover, which makes luxury cars that include Jaguars, Defenders, and Range Rovers, has not produced a car in the more than 3 weeks. Neither Jaguar Land Rover nor British government officials have said who is suspected of having carried out the attack. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer of Britain, said that government officials were working closely with Jaguar Land Rover. There is a wider issue here of ensuring that foreign states, including Russia, cannot bring down production or flights or public services in Britain, she said in an interview with ITV News. It is a new and a growing threat. The Trump administration had imposed 27.5% tariffs on cars imported from Britain to the United States in what would have caused particularly acute pain for the flagging auto industry of Britain. Jaguar Land Rover briefly paused car shipments to the United States in April because of the uncertainty caused by tariffs, but following the introduction of reduced 10% tariffs on car exports from Britain to the United States, car sales from Britain to the United States rose in July after 3 consecutive months of decline. According to data from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders of Britain, to Rhode Island, the Block Island wind farm had unexpected benefits. Excerpts edited by Sept for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, September 23, 2025. Block Island, a beloved summer destination off the coast of Rhode Island that is home to about 1,000 year-round residents, is known for unspoiled beaches, dramatic bluffs, and charming Victorian inns, and more recently for the first commercial offshore wind farm in the nation. The turbines started delivering electricity in 2016, the year Trump was first elected president. Since his election, again, offshore wind has come under siege in the United States. The Trump administration has attacked several projects under construction, including one that is almost completed off the coast of Rhode Island, saying wind farms have no place in American waters, but the Block Islanders have a different story to tell. Wind power has changed their lives in welcome and sometimes surprising ways. 50 States, 50 Fixes is a series about local solutions to environmental problems. More to come this year. The benefits have been extraordinary, said Keith Stover, head of the Island Town Council. Before the 5 turbines started spinning a few miles off the coast, this island ran on 5 big generators, soot spewing and ear-splitting. The machines burned 1 million gallons of diesel a year, ferried in from the mainland on tanker trucks, and stored underground. Energy costs tied to the volatile oil market seesawed so much that local businesses struggled to manage their budgets. Residents said power surges and dips fried household appliances. Clocks would not keep time. Those who lived near the power company described scraping soot off their windows and having to wash their curtains every month. Photo of the Block Island wind farm, roughly 3 miles offshore. Photo of New Shoreham, the only town on Block Island before the wind farm. Power surges and dips would damage household appliances. Then on May 1st, 2017, with the offshore turbines up and running, the island utility company turned off the generators as the motors were down. A new sound could be heard, bright and strangely loud in the sudden quiet birdsong. I still get chills when I think about it, said a woman resident of 30 years who heads the board of the local nonprofit power company. Thanks to the wind farm, which was initiated by the state and developed to demonstrate the feasibility of such projects, Block Island is now connected to the mainland grid by a $120 million undersea cable. The diesel generators sit silent, kept only for emergency use, in a big step forward for the island. The cable also delivers broadband internet. Before, the wind farm internet service was so glacial that locals would sometimes travel by boat to the mainland just for a reliable connection. The school barely had the bandwidth to participate in state testing. Now local residents can stream the shows that everyone on the mainland is talking about. People with vacation homes and the friends and family of all residents can visit longer because they can work remotely. All that, and the cost of electricity is less than 1/3 of what it would be if the island were still running on diesel, according to the president of the Block Island Utility District. He is not related to the Trump energy secretary, who argues that wind energy is expensive and unreliable. The turbines do not seem to have hurt tourism, according to the woman executive director of the Block Island Tourism Council. On the contrary, she said the improved electricity and internet are critical to continuing to attract visitors. Chartered fishing trips around the turbines are still on. Of course, not everyone on Block Island is a fan of offshore wind, especially now that you can see larger wind projects under construction in the distance. That includes Revolution Wind, a 65 turbine site that was 80% completed last month when Trump abruptly ordered work to stop on Monday. A judge ruled that construction could restart while the developer and the states of Rhode Island and Connecticut pursue legal action to keep the project alive. By day, those turbines look like minuscule white toothpicks on the horizon, but they are much more noticeable at night when they blink red. Another critique questions the economic feasibility of offshore wind power, which is among the most expensive forms of electricity. A photo of a large white cylinder outdoors on a platform. Diesel tanks at the Block Island power company generators are kept as a backup power supply in case of emergency. A photo of solar panels by the Southeast Lighthouse on Block Island. Residents say support for wind is part of an ethos of conservation on the island. A photo of people aboard the ferry that runs between Block Island and Point Judith, Rhode Island. Reliable power and internet means people can spend more time on the island, but many here strongly support the expansion of offshore wind as a necessary path to tackle climate change. 2 years ago, at a public meeting about wind farms, a team of lawyers, Sept interjects here, possibly with ties to the fossil fuel industry. Back to the article. Excerpt gave a presentation on the visual impact, urging residents to pursue legal action against Ørsted, the Danish wind developer of Revolution Wind, and another project nearby, South Fork Wind. Instead, residents defended the project, saying they were better than increased oil and gas drilling. The town decided to stop working with the attorneys. Do we want offshore wind, or do we want more offshore oil drills in the Gulf of Mexico? Everything is a trade-off in this world. Residents say that support for wind is part of a deeply rooted ethos of conservation on the island where more than 40% of land is protected from development. A local philanthropist, now deceased, started a group called the Solar Initiative that subsidizes residents who want to install solar panels, heat pumps, and electric vehicle charging stations. He donated an electric bus to the school and an electric truck to the utility, the wind farm. Also set the stage for Block Island to create the first electricity cooperative in Rhode Island. Previously, the utility was owned by private investors who had refused the town offer to buy, but after the wind farm came along, ushering in a new era that would not depend on diesel, the owners decided it was time to sell. Creating a cooperative required new state legislation, and a town task force stepped up to get it done. Now the customers are in charge of their power. The direction I get from my board is directly from the consumers. He said the wind farm creates far more energy than the island needs and feeds the surplus into the grid at the same time, in part because wind power is intermittent and more expensive. The island buys a mix of energy through the grid. It is a standard practice, offering a more secure arrangement, not unlike a diversified stock portfolio. Since 2024, Block Island has been offsetting its mix, which included fossil fuels with renewable energy certificates, but our members were not entirely satisfied with that, Mr. Wright said. So come November, the island will be buying 100% of its electricity from renewable sources. More than 40% of the land on Block Island is protected from development. Trump has assailed offshore wind for hurting birds and whales, but locals at a popular restaurant and at a cute gift shop readily cited aspects of modern life that are known to be far more harmful to wildlife. For instance, outdoor cats and large windows are estimated to kill billions of birds each year in the United States alone, and fishing entanglements and boat collisions are lethal for whales. The biggest supporters of wind on the island include a woman who volunteers rescuing sick or injured seals and a woman who has participated in bird conservation for more than 40 years. I am a bird person, but I am also an environmentalist, and I am really concerned about the earth and our use of fossil fuels, said a woman who also served as head of the town council when planning for the wind farm was underway. So I am really into alternatives, and I think wind is a really positive one. Choosing the right location was critical, she noted, saying that the area off Block Island worked well because migrating songbirds typically stay closer to the mainland and ducks appear to fly lower than the blades spin. Recreational anglers say the fishing is good around the turbines where the underwater structures are, creating artificial reefs, and not just around the turbines. On a fishing trip a few miles away this month, a local man hooked a good-sized bonito, he said, only to have a huge gray seal grab it as he pulled it out of the water. A few minutes later, the same thing happened again. TV star Democrat Trump live updates. Jimmy Kimmel returns home and inquiry, and more. The New York Times TV star Democrat next star and Sinclair boycott the Jimmy Kimmel return to late night. The New York Times TV star Democrat, what will Jimmy Kimmel say tonight? The New York Times. Trump and Congress shutdown possible on September 30th, 2025. Trump cancels meeting with Democrats as government shutdown nears. The New York Times. Trump Kirk action, opinion Christianity after Charlie Kirk. The New York Times. Trump Kirk action, the Trump remarks at Kirk Memorial distill his politics. I hate my opponent. The New York Times. Trump misinformation on Tylenol and autism. Trump, Tylenol and autism. The New York Times. Trump misinformation on Tylenol and autism, what to know about Tylenol, pregnancy, and babies. The New York Times. Trump UN visit cyber attack attempt, cache of devices capable of crashing cell network is found near UN. The New York Times. Trump visa fees. Trump $100,000 H-1B visa fee puts many tech start UPS in a bind. The New York Times. Denmark Copenhagen drone sightings force Copenhagen and Oslo airports to close temporarily. The New York Times. Denmark Copenhagen. Foreigners have flocked to Copenhagen for weddings is the honeymoon over. The New York Times. Ukraine gas stations to understand Ukraine at war, stopped by a gas station. The New York Times. Egypt, the most famous political prisoner in Egypt is freed and reunited with family. The New York Times. The dissident Abd El Fattah, a British-Egyptian dual citizen, was imprisoned 12 years. Malawi. Peter Mutharika set to return to power in Malawi. The New York Times. China. Religion, the rapture was predicted to happen today. TikTok has some advice. The New York Times. Headlines. The Guardian. September 23rd, 2025. Your countries are going to hell. A recap of the Trump address to the UN General Assembly. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian. September 23rd, 2025. In an address lasting almost an hour, more than 3 times the allotted length, Trump issued a stunning indictment of immigration in European countries, clean energy projects, and the efficacy of the United Nations as an organization without a working teleprompter. The president went off script regularly and even attacked his political adversaries. Trump began his speech by criticizing the UN for not helping him in the process of ending 7 wars. Since he returned to office, the president slammed the UN, claiming it is not living up to its potential. All they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It is empty words, and empty words do not solve war. He said the only thing that solves war and wars is action, without acknowledging that he has not fulfilled his campaign promise of ending the war in Ukraine. On day 1, Trump laid blame on countries for buying Russian oil. He called out India, China, and a number of NATO allies. They are funding the war against themselves, Trump said, as hopes of a ceasefire feel increasingly elusive. The president said that in the event that Russia is not ready to make a deal to end the war, then the United States is fully prepared to impose a very strong round of powerful tariffs. Trump scolded Europe, saying that they would have to join the US by adopting the exact same measures. Trump issued a stunning warning that European countries are going to hell. Ultimately, the Trump thesis tied immigration with clean energy projects, the two issues that would lead to the death of Western Europe. Throughout his address, the president derided several renewable energy projects and said that climate change is the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world and means you cannot get away from this green scam. He then issued a warning to countries investing in these projects. Your country is going to fail, and I am really good at predicting things. Amazon money to historic black universities. Philanthropist Mac Kinsey Scott donates $70 million to HBCUs. U.S. News. The Guardian. 3. Clean energy global investment in renewable energy up 10% from 2024 despite Trump rollback. Renewable energy excerpts edited by Rhode for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, The Guardian, September 23, 2025. The Guardian, the total amount of investment in low-carbon forms of energy is expected to be more than twice that for fossil fuels by the end of the year. The total amount of investment in low-carbon forms of energy is expected to be more than twice that for fossil fuels by the end of the year. Photograph, Phil Noble. Reuters. Renewable energy. Global investment in renewable energy up 10% on 2024 despite Trump rollback. Growth rates slightly lower than previous first half years, but sector still strong and resilient. Experts say investment in renewable energy has continued to increase around the world despite moves by the Trump White House to cancel and derail low-carbon projects. In the first half of 2025, investment globally in renewable technologies and projects reached a record $386 billion, up by about 10% on the same period last year. Investment in energy around the world is likely to hit about $3.3 trillion, 2.4 trillion pounds this year, while more than $1 trillion of the total is still likely to flow into fossil fuels. Double that amount, about $2.2 trillion, is expected for low-carbon forms of energy. A report from the Zero Carbon Analytics think tank published on Tuesday shows that the rate of increase in renewable energy investment has not slowed significantly between the first half of 2023 and of 2024. The total increased by 12%, and from 2022 to 2023 the increase was 17%. A woman research analyst at the group said this shows the sector still has momentum and underlying strength. There has been a decline in the rate of growth, but it aligns with the average of the last 3 years and suggests that renewable energy investment is more resilient than might have been expected. Finance for onshore and offshore wind increased by about a quarter in this first half of this year, reaching £126 billion. China and Europe were the biggest markets for offshore wind since January this year. At least $470 billion in future clean energy finance has been announced, according to the report, of which roughly 3/4 is slated for energy grids and electricity transmission. This is good news for governments hoping to reach their commitments to cut greenhouse gas emissions, as aging and inadequate grids have been a major bottleneck for the achievement of renewable energy goals. A separate report, also published on Tuesday, found that big companies are also continuing to press ahead with their climate promises despite hostility from Trump in the U.S. and some high-profile moves to roll back on commitments, according to data compiled by the Net Zero Tracker, a research consortium made up of think tanks and academics. Companies representing about 70% of the revenue of the top 2,000 listed companies globally were actively pursuing net zero plans, while Trump has pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Agreement and dismantled federal efforts to tackle the climate crisis. Not all of the U.S. has followed the federal government lead. 19 states remain committed to net zero, and 304 large companies headquartered in the U.S. have net zero targets, up from 279 last year. Together, those companies account for nearly 2/3 of U.S. corporate revenue, or about $12 trillion in revenue globally. The lead author of the report said the impact of the White House on climate decisions made by large companies appeared limited. Talk of a net zero recession is overblown. Backtracking is confined to fossil fuels and their financiers, while more companies are moving from box ticking to real emission cuts. A long overdue reset, he said, but countries and companies still need to move faster. The report found although more are now putting measures in place to match their commitments, there is still a large gap between aspiration and action. Democrats, someone has to drag the U.S. out of the hellscape of Trumpism. Who better than AOC Arwa Madawi? The Guardian. Democrats and Republicans election deniers now hold posts on local U.S. election boards, raising concerns for midterms U.S. politics. The Guardian. Georgia race for governor heats up with entrance of two skeptics of the Trump 2020 election, claims Georgia. The Guardian. Kamala Harris, Democrat, 107 Days by Kamala Harris Review. No Closure, No Hope autobiography and memoir. The Guardian. The former presidential candidate sticks to the script in a memoir that will only cause further bad blood. Excerpts edited by Rhode for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian. September 23, 2025. Almost a year after the 2024 election, there are still some houses with Harris signs in their windows dotted around my liberal Philadelphia neighborhood. The result left many people in a state of shock and denial, unable to process exactly what went wrong. No one was more shocked than Kamala Harris, whose inner circle had been confident on election night that they had eked out a win during the whirlwind campaign cupcakes with Madam President toppings were ready to go, champagne on ice. It says a lot about how traumatized we both were by what happened that night, that my husband Doug and I never discussed it with each other until I sat down to write this book. Harris reveals in her new memoir. Kamala Harris sticks to her talking points. One of the most compelling sections describes her birthday celebration 16 days before the election. Harris had expected Doug to do something special. She is a big birthday person, but he was so beaten down from the campaign that he shrugged the day off. If Biden had stuck to his promise to be a transitional president, if she had had more time to campaign, Kamala Harris feels it would have made a difference. New York City mayoral race, how the billionaire class and wealthy landlords are conspiring against Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani. The Guardian. Ohio. Rozep. View nuclear energy is not clean energy because of the predictability of nuclear contamination from predictable human error. From the article headline, Families Are Dying and Ohio Towns Suffering from Fallout Years After the Closure of the Nuclear Plant. U.S. News. The Guardian. Oklahoma tiger handler was fatally attacked in front of family during show. Oklahoma. The Guardian. RH. Rozep. America Healthier. The one change that worked, I used to sip Red Bull to get me out of bed until I tried the 3-2-1 method. Life and Style. The Guardian. RH. Rozep. America Healthier. Put yourself first. 10 ways women can get a much better deal at work, home, and beyond. Women. The Guardian. TV star Democrat Jimmy Kimmel is coming back. It is proof that you still have power. Robert Reich. The Guardian. TV star Democrat. Our late night nightmare is over. TV hosts celebrate the Jimmy Kimmel return to air. Jimmy Kimmel. The Guardian. TV star Democrat Stephen Colbert on the Kimmel return. Our long national late TV nightmare is Over late-night TV roundup, the Guardian Trump absurd nomenclature and misinformation Rozep view Antifa is a Republican nickname by which Republicans lump together individual persons opposed to fascism and opposed to individual persons who support democracy. From the article headline, What is Antifa, and why has Trump branded it a terrorist organization? Trump, the Guardian Trump, hatred, the Guardian view on. The Trump hate for opponents practicing politics the wrong way. Editorial, the Guardian Trump Justice Department weaponized to attack personal enemies. White House aide sworn in as interim U.S. attorney after Trump fired predecessor Trump. The Guardian Trump Kirk actions. Charlie Kirk was a divisive far-right podcaster. Why is he being rebranded as a national hero? Cited Grundy. The Guardian Trump Kirk actions. Pennsylvania official faces threats over post misconstrued as Charlie Kirk killing celebration. Charlie Kirk shooting. The Guardian Trump Kirk actions. The U.S. right claimed free speech was sacred until the Charlie Kirk killing. Charlie Kirk shooting. The Guardian Trump misinformation about Tylenol and autism. The Trump absurd Tylenol claims heighten the suffering of pregnant women in the U.S. Maura Donegan. The Guardian Trump misinformation about Tylenol and autism. Trump attacks Tylenol as officials unveil highly contentious conclusions on autism. Trump administration. The Guardian Trump UN visit. Guess what? Macron phones Trump after the motorcade of the U.S. president blocks his car. Emmanuel Macron. The Guardian Trump UN visit. Pay no attention. Global health agencies dismiss false Trump claim on everyday painkillers. Health. The Guardian Trump UN visit. Trump calls for nations to close borders and expel foreigners in UN speech. Your countries are being ruined. Trump. The Guardian Trump UN visit. Your countries are going to hell. Trump attacks European leaders and United Nations in fiery General Assembly speech. Live. Trump and universities fear and hopelessness study finds 1 in 4 professors consider leaving U.S. South. U.S. News. The Guardian Trump and universities. Trump administration must restore $500 million in funding to UCLA. Judge rules. Trump administration. The Guardian Trump visa fees tariffs on talent. The Trump's visa fees threaten the most prized employees of tech technology. The Guardian Trinidad and Tobago Trump war on Venezuela. Trinidadian fishers fear getting caught in the crossfire amid the Trump Caribbean war on drugs. Trinidad and Tobago. The Guardian Australia. How does Anthony Albanese really feel about being snubbed by Trump? Fiona Katauskas. The Guardian New Zealand loosens residency restrictions as record number of citizens leave New Zealand. The Guardian Scotland smiles not. Miles a Scottish cycling tour all about enjoyment not endurance. Highlands holidays. The Guardian United Kingdom careers. The human stain remover. What the greatest extreme cleaner in Britain learned from 25 years on the job. Crime. The Guardian United Kingdom consumers. Fashion strange days. How the Blitz Club changed the 1980s and fashion. High fashion. The Guardian United Kingdom. The rich are different from you and me. Airs and graces by Eleanor Dowdy. Review. What are aristocrats really like? Books. The Guardian United Kingdom. The rich and an Epstein connection. Spare a thought for right royal victim Duchess Fergie. It has been another truly hellacious week. Marina Hyde. The Guardian United Kingdom. The rich and the far right. The populist right wants to remake the UK in the image of Dubai. We should all be careful what they wish for. Jonathan Liu. The Guardian Europe has lost one superpower ally. Can it afford to be in the crosshairs of two? Natalie Tochi. The Guardian Denmark cyber attack. Danish PM airport drone incursion. A serious attack on critical infrastructure. Denmark. The Guardian Afghanistan sexism and keeping girls from getting an education. It kept our spirits alive. The Taliban internet blackout leaves girls in despair. Global development. The Guardian Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. Rozep view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco Design Wood Stove International. Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette View Purple Air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.